RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 midday YouTube talk show. Excited to be back for a Monday. And got a lot of things I want to touch on, primarily around all the diversion tactics that's taking place right now amidst all the crumbling and the deterioration of the global economy, as well as our current financial realm or whatnot. But I want to just throw out a couple of thoughts, share my 2 cents, get your take on it. And then, of course, there's more than enough stories to touch on. So I'm curious to hear what you guys been keeping an eye on. Hope everyone had a great weekend. And as always, let me know via chat if we have any first time visitors to the channel or members of the community. And when the phone lines open up, number is 313-462-0027. We'll love to hear from you directly on matters that can help better keep us informed. So let's dive right in. Let me acknowledge a couple people, share a couple articles, and try to lay out a little bit of a foundation as to where we're at and where we're heading and the things that the powers that be don't want us to focus on. We got Keenan checking in. Appreciate you, my man. Hope all is well. We got, I think, Tiffany Turner, if I'm not mistaken. It says Louisiana in the building. Appreciate you. We got Alan checking in. Says no one's laughing at preppers now. Definitely. We got Road King 64 from Maryland. We got Alan from PA. We got, let me see here. Who else checking in? See a lot of thoughts out here. I'll get to them one by one. We got Daryl checking in. Spare me a dime or spare a dime. JoJo checking in. We got Road King. I'm stocking beans the way I love food, the way I have food and gas, definitely. We got Pippi from Chicago. Appreciate you guys, man. All right, so I want to just jump right in and share my 2 cents on something because amidst all the noise, it's a lot of noise going on right now. And of course, the Western media would definitely, like to control the narrative, but even though they're losing control of certain angles, and I was especially looking at last week how it's all based upon Joe Rogan and the cry of misinformation and all that other stuff that it just counters the narrative that they want us to believe. Okay, but amongst all that, there's a lot of other things that are important, but yet because it has more chance of revealing the dark and dirty side of the politicians, we never heard much about it in the same light as we're hearing with Joe Rogan and this medical stuff, but has a lot to do with Epstein and Maxwell and all the stuff that came out that never bothered to hit anybody else's airways, but I'll let that alone. But anyway, amongst all the, of course, financial markets are still having issues. Federal Reserve, okay, they're going to try to do whatever they're going to try to do. Okay, cool. But then again, a Russia-Ukraine situation, the other side of the equation, which is things that we're not being told, it happens to be with the fact that could another angle towards all this be geared towards Russia, basically, sometime soon, preferably this year or before the full-fledged sanctions kick in on them for their continued aggression towards Ukraine. Could it have anything to do with the fact that Russia has de-dollarized their economy, ultimately to the point where they don't really have anything invested in the old Western legacy system, and they are willing and ready to basically, as I always said in the past, at any moment, China, Russia could just flip a switch and, change the game. And so I kind of retitled this, little rant, the Putin-Shock. And so I came across an article, got a couple articles here, and I'll just, thumb through them briefly and share my 2 cents. But let me go to an article that caught my attention just from the title alone. And so this flew under the radar, but this is out of China, one of their news sources. Take of it what you may, but the headline caught my attention. It says Chinese warn U.S. debt and dollar hegemony may lead to another Nixon shock with global implications. So I'm thinking like a Nixon shock. What did they mean by that? And I'm thinking like, wow. So Nixon shock, basically they shocked the world by unpegging their Federal Reserve liabilities from gold, causing the mess we're in now. Could there possibly be a plan in the works that will create another Nixon shock type approach, would probably connect the world back to gold? And so this article here goes into more of the debt issues. And of course, gold is a primary anchor here. But then I'll give you another article here that really brought it home. And this is from Jim Rickards about a week ago. And of course, flew under the radar. But it says the 64,000 question. And if you read through this, it gives you more ideas to what the mainstream media is telling us: Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Russian aggression. That's what they want us to believe. But could this narrative of Russian aggression be geared to the fact that the US is concerned and possibly afraid of the fact that Russia and Putin, whether you like him or not, doesn't matter. At this point of the game, the dollar has ran its course and has caused more harm than good. So they're really ready to move on and basically flip that switch and reintroduce gold back into the equation in a new way, i.e., a tokenized asset style approach. So that's my personal opinion. I think that a lot of this narrative outside of the geographical area and all the issues of Russia, Ukraine, a lot of this has to do with the fact that I think, in my personal opinion, Russia, who's probably has one of the most cleanest baskets or financial economies, rather, they're in the best shape to actually be able to pull something off. And on top of their military dominance and things like that, I think they're ready. And so I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that they need, meaning the Western shadow government, globalist people, they need some type of distraction. So they want to use war basically against Russia as the pushback narrative of the Ukraine aggression. But in actuality, it's to slow down or stop or stall the $64,000 question. And in this article here, Jim Rickards doesn't really point to this number being the price of gold, but he lays out a decent case as to why gold is definitely a part of this equation. And ultimately, over the last 20 years or so, especially last 7, 8, I've been covering this topic, Russia has been steadily accumulating to the point where they no longer have a strong reserve backing of the Federal Reserve notes, aka dollars. So at any moment now, if something was to just come out, they will be in very good position to not suffer much loss like the rest of the world would. But give an idea here, it says Russia's reserve position has hit an all-time high of 640 billion, of which 140 billion, or 22% of their reserves, is in physical bullion held inside Russia. And basically goes on to talk about the SWIFT concerns and being removed off the payment networks and things like that. And so that right there lets me know, like, wow, okay, that's a whole nother angle that should be talked about, because I think there's a lot of news floating out about the advancement of the crypto space within Russia. And so here's another headline that is circulating today as well. So you have more billionaires. There's been more billionaires coming out talking about the need for Russia to begin implementing their technology attached to real world assets, i.e. metals. So it says Russian billionaire Putin says tokens can displace crypto. And so if you go through this, it just talks about basically a company, let me see here, that he's involved in, or one of the founders of. And if you backtrack some of the linkage, Putin also have a vested interest in some of these tokenized companies. And so here's a company here, Atomize, if I'm saying that correctly. It says billionaire Vladimir is an investor in Atomize, which uses blockchain to turn real assets ranging from metals to homes into tokens that can be easily exchanged. And it goes on and on and on and on, whatever, talks more about metals. But what's interesting about this is the Bank of Russia, the Central Bank of Russia, has approved Atomize, or what is it called? Atomize. Yep, I'll go with Atomize. So the Central Russian Bank has approved Atomize, the company, to basically partner with the Russian Central Bank to begin tokenizing things. And so to move on even further, let me get to another article here. So here is an article that just trying to connect the dots here to lay out a case as to how the Putin-Shock could be in the near future. And then also, before I go on, remember last year, spring, we were talking about how the IMF, when they started really talking about the Basel III negotiations, and basically the European banks needing to actually hold physical gold within a certain time frame. And they threw out there to be January 1st, 2022, but it's been pushed back or whatever. But along with that same narrative, there was a dispute with Russia. And so I think the Russian and IMF dispute led a lot to the need for the IMF to force European banks to get their books right with getting rid of all the paper contract stuff and actually getting physical before something occurs. Now it's just a matter as to whether or not Russia is waiting on that Bretton Woods 2.0 movement that Janet Yellen mentioned last year, or will he go ahead and implement his own standard utilizing gold, as well as all these new technologies tokenizing gold on a ledger, either controlled by Russia or whatever. But this is what's in the works. And I think this is also very important outside of the fear and doom and gloom that they're trying to put on us. But here, if you give an idea real quick, I'll save you the time. But it says blockchain-based metals marketplace atomized, if I'm saying it correctly, licensed by the Russian central bank. And this was as of last week. And this flew under the radar as well. So you got a company tokenizing metals, partnering with the Russian central bank. And then even in this article here, it talks about how the goal would be to make it available for individuals as well as businesses to be able to redeem and use these metal tokens. And so this is within the country of Russia. Okay. And then you factor in how literally within a week, Russia has changed its stance on the alleged decentralized crypto space, referring to Bitcoin or whatnot. And even I think it was today I saw a tweet that one of the Russian bank officials or finance ministers was talking about the need for Russia to be able to sell Bitcoin through their banking system. So, we'll see where this leads to, but the narrative has changed over the last couple of weeks, and utilizing technology coupled with gold, there will definitely be some type of shock. Now, whether it's the President Xi shock, Putin shock, or whoever shock, a shock is coming. At the same time, the global economy is going through issues, as the IMF has already warned, by all these central banks removing their accommodative policies. It will lead to a major issue. And so clearly the central banks know that. So are they trying to race to basically destroy the global economy before this shock takes place with the introduction of gold back into the system, just for confidence sake? I don't think the individuals on a domestic level will be able to actually probably, go to the bank and redeem those digital ledger tokens or coins for metals. But the clock is ticking, and the race towards the end of the Federal Reserve System is underway. Now, will we actually will the U.S. be forced to go to war with Russia to prevent this, all disguised as the whole Ukraine aggression, yada, yada, yada? We'll see. But time will tell. So, let me know what you guys think in the chat. Could we see a Putin-Shock via the introduction of a gold-backed crypto style approach, probably this year? So the next question would be, if there is some type of shock with the reintroduction of gold back into the system just for international stability's sake, will that also come before the Federal Reserve's need for their CBDC after the markets completely tank, things go belly up, and they need to respond by directly injecting stimulus into depositors' hands or whatnot? Will there be a gold-backed version introduced to the world by Russia? So these are all the questions that I'm trying to ponder and wrap my mind around, just because I think they're very important, because pretty soon, this stuff is going to be, hit mainstream surface. So one of the things you might want to continue to do, as I always say, in my opinion, is to get your weight up. And while I'm speaking of getting your weight up, let's just look at the activity today. And so typically, what's also different is usually come Monday morning, there's usually a slam down, but for some reason today, the metals, gold and silver, are trending upwards. That's not common. So did something break, or are the banks starting to let it run? We'll find out. But once again, these prices here and actual physical possession in your hand prices are probably the cheapest you're going to find. So continue to get your weight up, because I do anticipate, a market drop where they will send paper prices of metals down, but you won't be able to buy them at that price. So we'll see. And on another note, I see Jay says Putin is smart. It says Putin was, let me see, it says Putin is smart. I wouldn't put it past him to implement a non-fiat currency. Right. And that's the thing. I've been talking about Russia, China, just because the rethinking a dollar concept was all based upon the fact that someday the Federal Reserve System would lose control. The world would need to move on, just because all empires die. Who would, so will the Eastern nations sit by and let the West continue on dominating with some type of fiat-based debt Ponzi type of scheme, or will they step up to the plate, reestablish confidence back in the system? And the only way you can truly establish confidence in a real world case is to have something physical that you can have in your hand, outside of the Western's agenda of trying to create the illusion of confidence, i.e., the Bitcoin space, digital asset space. Like we see all the big banks, and even Ted Cruz is talking about he purchased 50,000 or so in Bitcoin. But I've never heard Ted Cruz mention the word gold or silver out of his mouth. Maybe I didn't listen to it, but when you have Western politicians now more excited about Bitcoin and the other assets like that, and not reminding their own citizens about gold and silver, that lets me know that still a Western versus Eastern thing. Because if gold is not mentioned in any equation, while the central banks are getting their weights up in gold, that lets me know that they're trying to distract you. They're trying to make sure you're not fully in a place where it offers the most stability in something real and physical you can feel. All right, let's keep it moving. So I got a couple more articles here. Then I open the phone lines. We can talk more, and let me know your thoughts on all types of things. So let me. I see you might have a little bit of spammer out there. So we'll work around that. It says very powerful name. I'm glad to be a Turner. I'm glad. Okay. All right. So I'm not sure Tiffany Turner. If what we got about all that. Let's focus on the subject at hand: how to prepare, how to brace for impact, how to better encourage one another, and to help those around us. Because, mind you, if you're tuned in this channel, you're awake and aware of what's really going on, and it's your responsibility to make sure your family don't sink with the ship as best as you can. Anyway, keep it moving. A couple more subjects here, then we'll keep it rolling. All right, let me see what else I got on the table. I want to definitely touch on. Let me see here. Okay. So speaking of gold back, let me just go and throw this out there as well. I think it was a couple days ago. Let me make sure when was this? When was this? This was So last week, another Eastern nation or country approved of a gold back token, currency, whatever. So Mitsu and Company to issue cryptocurrency linked to gold. So I'm not a fan of linked or backed basically real world assets to counterparty risk style parties or whatnot, or products or tokens and paper or thing like that, just because eventually it's going to fail. But once again, this is about reestablishing confidence in the global monetary system outside of the dollar's dominance. So here is out of Japan. So the country of Japan has partnered with Mitsu and Company. It's like a Japanese trading house plans to issue a digital called Zinpeng coin as early as this month. And so it's approved and sanctioned by all the financial entities within that country there. And so there's just another nation trying to link gold back into the equation. And for all those people out there, especially the newer, younger people that drunk all the Kool-Aid, the crypto Kool-Aid, they're the ones that's easy. It makes it easy to say, gold is barbarous relic. It has no use case. It's old, it's clunky, it sits there, takes up space. But then again, that's what a real world item that serves as money as well as a insurance against the fiat Ponzi schemes. That's what it does. That's all it needs to do is sit there, shine while all the chaos around it unfolds. So here we have Japan doing their thing. We'll see what comes about from it. But on another note here, here's possibly some good news for some people. It says Meta says it may shut down Facebook and Instagram in Europe over data sharing dispute. So ultimately, the EU is trying to do some things, clamp down on all this data sharing, metadata, confiscation by Facebook, and using it for its own purposes to basically monetize the European citizens in a sense. And so looks like Mark Zuckerberg and his crew is threatening to remove Facebook. And so the good news is the world really doesn't need a Facebook. The world doesn't need Facebook because we have other options. There's other platforms that actually connect people that doesn't harvest people's data for profit and not give the actual creators on their platforms any revenue whatsoever towards the profits earned by those mega corporations. So I would not be opposed to Facebook dropping Meta, because as of right now, Meta, in my opinion, can go bye-bye because it's not necessary. It's not needed, in my opinion. The world will be a better place, I think, without Facebook, in my opinion. Let me know yours. All right, and on another note, let's keep it moving. Here's a Substack from Occupy the Fed movement, and it talks about Mr. Powell. So allegedly, Jerome Powell, and it gives you some information here showing his trading history over the last year, and it looks like Jerome Powell has been a naughty boy. And so this right here is deemed as a Fed scandal bigger than Watergate. So it looks like while Jerome Powell was trying to stabilize confidence back in the system, he was also front running trading and doing all types of things that is deemed illegal in a sense. But I don't think the mainstream media would touch on this. But I think this could lead to more of a shakeout of all the bad actors in the central banking cartel that could lead to some more issues coming soon. So if you guys are interested in reading this, just type Fed scandal bigger than Watergate. It'll pop up. It's nice and lengthy, but it just basically highlights Jerome Powell's activity, his financial investing. And there's some problems there. I have some issues with that. And then on the last note here, and I'll start ranting, open the phone lines, get your takes on these stories. Here's a headline that just makes you wonder. It says, there's never been a worse time to buy a home in a poll of U.S. households. So due to the fact borrowing costs is going up, the bond market is starting to become problematic because it's going to make that debt much more unserviceable. But also mortgage rates will go up as well. So here we see a record increase in rental prices is anticipated, along with the actual cost of borrowing to buy homes. At the same time, I think the housing price eventually will peak out and start trending down, depending on what area you're located in, just because no easy liquidity injected in the system. There's no ability for house prices to continue to, basically command a price well beyond people's ability to afford it. So just something to pay attention to for whatever it's worth. So, and then on the last note here, it looks like, S&P ended down, Dow is down, NASDAQ is down, Russell just barely squeaked out. So that means overall the Wilshire 5,000, which is the more important metrics of the global equities, is probably down as well. So, there's need of stimulus. No markets, no economy, no retirement, no all that other stuff. So, yeah, that's just what's going on. But anyway, enough of me ranting. Curious to get your thoughts on any of the subject matter. Will we see a Putin-Shock or a G-Shock, or will they wait till after the global calamity and the Federal Reserve basically has to come out cutting on the water hydrant to flood the world? Will there then be something introduced? We'll see. Anyway, let's touch on that. Here we go. Hello, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hey, Mike. Calling from Colorado.
Colorado.
Love the show, man.
Appreciate you. What's your name, my friend?
Tim.
Tim, what's going on, Tim? Give me a quick thought.
Yeah, hey, I just wanted to get your take on, I don't know if you've heard of Reggie Middleton and his recent patent that he was granted.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like there's a lot of stir going on in the cryptocurrency and banking community, under the scenes about what this means for the banking system, because it's essentially all of the newer payment methods could be infringing upon his patent that he applied for back in 2014.
Right.
So anyway, I just want to get your take on that. And if you think it's important.
All right. So I appreciate that question. And we talked about it before. Great question. So it's two ways to look at it. It's disruptive or it won't succeed. So mind you, right now, in this whole fourth turning, the end of an empire, i.e. this right here, 108 years or whatever it has been, for this coming to an end, that is my primary problem. So my concern is that even though the patent reveals that, obviously Reggie Middleton has claim to a lot of things that he said he does, but at the same time that the global economy is drawing at an end under this current monetary structure, will there be such thing as law and order and the respect of actual intellectual property in that case there? Because mind you, is Reggie Middleton and his crew or his analysts or whatever versus the government. And of course, from his prior litigation aspect of the SEC doing what they did, the guy with the smallest pockets lose. So what the governments and the central banks can do, and the too big to fail banks can do, if they feel threatened by a patent they can tie this up in court for decades because they can just throw money at it. And mind you, all the boys, all the players in that big boys club of the banking cartel, they're not going to let their pockets be hindered. They're not going to let this transition into the digital space, which is where they want to take us, be hindered by one man and his patent. So I think Reggie will definitely put up a good fight, but yet between now and the time this markets come to an end, as far as this next deflationary crash is coming, will it even matter will be the question. So my personal opinion is true. Reggie's old. Everything that he believes he's old, true. But at the end of a dying empire, rule and law will not matter. In my opinion, they won't respect any type of intellectual property or give a care about one man and his patents. So that's my personal opinion, because if all the courts and all the justices and all the entities of the government are on the payroll of the shadow government, central bank cartel, they don't want to lose their control. I doubt they let one person bring them down or hinder their pockets. So I can see somehow, some way, Reggie will end up having to comply with the big boys as like, we'll put some money, we'll put a couple billions in your pocket so you can join our club. But if you don't join our club, sad to say, what happens when people don't join the club. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. But I would love to see, my personal hope would be Reggie Middleton and his patent and all the things that, he rightfully has a say-so to. My hope is that he disrupts the banks, that he destroys the transition towards this central bank digital currency. Because if his patent stands, that means the Federal Reserve and their CBDC, their peer-to-peer transaction and all that decentral ledger stuff, they would also need his permission as well. And what if he was able to say, no, this is not how the CBDC model should work. We're not going to do a surveillance coin. No, I'm sorry, you can't have my patent rights. No CBDC. Great. You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of stuff I would hope would happen. But that's just wishful thinking, in my opinion. But hopefully that shares, answer your questions a little bit. All right. Hello, caller Shane. Where you calling from?
This is the coolest white dude in Yaxcaba, Mexico. my new undercover name, Mike.
How you doing, man?
This is Dennis. I'm doing great. You might hear a little banging. That's my contractors in the background. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the national debt.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, Dennis, got to get a couple more calls in. So give me something quick if you don't mind. Hit it always hard, but give it to me quicker.
Okay, Mike Maloney had a video, and the national debt is increasing 0.5% every week.
Yeah.
So that's 26%. So using the rule of 72, let's make this math easy.
Mm-hmm.
75 divided by 25 is 3 years. That national debt would go from 30 to 60 trillion in 3 years from now. That's it.
30 to 60 trillion. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, Mike had a video on it.
Yeah.
And it was really a good video.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
You know what else he said, and this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He said it would be nearly 100% debt monetization at that point.
Yeah. Whew. And so here's the thing, so numerically speaking, all those numbers, if you do the right math, could add up to 60 trillion. Okay, so I would never question Mike Maloney's math. But the question would then really be is, would this current system that we're looking at still be intact? Because at that point, 30 trillion is already a joke as far as people waking up to the fact that they won't be able to actually meet that obligation whatsoever. So you can just put 40, 50, 60, 80 on, because what I'm talking about tonight, will we see a Putin-Shock? Will gold be introduced before the end to where it'll make it irrelevant, because the current amount of Federal Reserve notes and liabilities will be rushing towards real metal, i.e. driving the price through the roof to where people won't even pay attention to the debt, because it won't really matter at that point, because the game is over in a sense.
Well, especially if you're in a conflict or a war with them, the opposer of the war, if we go to war with China, they're not going to keep the debt of the enemy. They're going to dump 1.6 trillion or whatever they have in reserves, and that takes the dollar to zero. It's currency wars, like Jim Rickards wrote about.
Right, 100%. Very true, man. But no, I'll check that video out, because I did see it, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. But I'll check it out. But thanks for bringing that figure to us, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. You take care.
Right, be good.
Goodbye.
Yeah, that's some good stuff there. Because think about this. Once again, at this current moment, the numbers to me in regards to this figure here, 30 trillion, and of course you go down to the bottom, you got, 164 trillion, 33 trillion, 21 trillion, trillion. Like trillions is a very small number in comparison to what's needed to keep this thing from completely going belly up, because as I always say, we got 1 point something quadrillion up here, and that's what all these trillions are designed to do, is keep that 1 quadrillion from actually going poof and blowing up every damn thing. And of course, we talked about last week how the numbers they gave us, continue to increase. 29 trillion here, reverse repo trillions. It's just trillions upon trillions. Hello, caller. Where are we calling from?
Yeah, Mike, Steve, Pima Region 9.
Steve, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, quick thing real quick. Just want to remind people about that to get the ivermectin, mygotodoc.com.
Yeah.
Mine just arrived, I guess, last week sometime. So just all they got to do is keep up with the email. That's all they got to do.
Yeah.
Hey, the other thing is David Gergen. I just want to reflect back to him since Nixon was mentioned.
Yeah.
David Gergen goes back to Nixon.
Okay.
Mr. Bohemian Grove. He goes back to the Nixon and Ford times, 1969. So if these guys are out here, going to Bohemian Grove, worshiping Satan or Moloch, whatever they want to do, people just need to ask themselves, why is that? Why is that?
Right.
And we just saw him interviewing Klaus Schwab. This guy popped. They roll this minion out every time election time rolls out in America.
Right.
You can trace him back from every election, from this last one all the way back to 1969. They roll him out on CNN, etc. That's about the only time that you see him is during election time. But he'll pop up every now and then between then. Anyway,
I'll do a better job. I'll keep an eye out for him more now as a mainstream pundit that they're going to try to use, and try to dissect it further myself, because he's just one of the many puppets being used, but so many of them now. So, oh man,
absolutely, no doubt about it. All of them are just, they know who they worship.
Right. Exactly.
At the end of the day. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to this. Regardless of what anybody has to say, it doesn't matter whether they like it, don't like it, all the rest of that. That Bible says there's no other name.
Right.
There's no other name
to
enter into heaven than Jesus. So, I mean, that knocks out Muhammad, Mary, Sally, Tupac, whoever somebody wants to throw in there. It just knocks it out.
Yeah, very true.
The last thing is this, Mike. I took Tony B's advice, got out of the house, fresh air, skip out into the environment, and I skipped right on down. To that flea market. Hey, dude, I got you. I got your care package ready to go.
Hey,
started boxing it up.
Appreciate you, man. Hey, let me get some more calls in, but thanks for checking in with us.
All right. Take it easy.
Hello, caller. Where are we calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's low blood pressure, Corpus Christi. How you doing today?
What's good, my man? I'm doing good. What's up with you?
Yeah, man. It's living life, a loving life.
Now, watch this real quick. Did that cold front hit y'all down there, hit you in Corpus Christi, or did it bypass, or what?
It was cold. It went down maybe to like 25 degrees one night, and it was cold for about 2 days. It actually hit like 36 during the day, and for us, that's real cold.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. What else on your mind?
But look, check it out, man. Back with this crypto thing. There's a lot of channels. There's this guy I love him to death. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's a New Yorker, and he follows the markets, and he's really, really good.
Yeah.
But he says that he loves crypto because there's no central bank issuing the crypto, but it's not. But honest to God, nobody knows that for sure, Mike. Because nobody knows who made it.
Right, and that's the nobody knows, but obviously that's not important at this current moment, because so many people are focused on, they witnessed the dollars being destroyed, and the Federal Reserve is stuck. So it's like, save yourself. And they always consider the primary lifeboat being Bitcoin. And that's becoming the main narrative, while gold and silver gets, talked about by the preppers. The preppers talk about gold and silver and food, water, shelter, whatever. Younger crowd talk about Satoshis and stats and all that stuff like that. And so, got two different narratives. Ultimately, we know what's happening, but I just, where I stand, man. I just want people to think critically.
God. There's only one God, and there's only one, there's only one gold,
Yeah, very true. Very true. Hey, man, but to each his own, continue to do what you do. And as long as you got confidence in what you're doing, hey, everything falls on you anyway. We're all responsible for our own individual actions. And that's why education is key. Making sure we understand what we're getting involved in, while there's still time. So, yeah. But hey, man.
All right, Mike. I got that credit card ready, Mike. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I got mine ready too.
All right,
see you later, man.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff, man. It's crypto. It's crazy stuff out here. Yeah, and that's where, hey, to each his own, do what you got to do. You know where I stand. I'm gonna stick to this until I can't stick to it no more. Just because it's true, tried and tested. It's been around for a while. And then on top of that, I don't mind, gambling. I'll call it gambling, just because the upside at this current moment outweighs the risks for me rather. So anyways, keep it moving. Give me a call. Let's talk a couple more minutes and we'll dive back. I want to connect early. I would like to do more early streams and possibly later if I can. And so always trying to see what works, what doesn't, but make sure we stay connected. Knowledge is key. 100% TB. It is key. All right, what else going on here? Did I have anything else I want to touch on? Maybe. Oh, here's an interesting story as well. Somebody shared this in the Discord. It says Iran and Russia seek to topple the petrodollar's dominance. And so all the world, like literally, the Middle East has shifted. The Middle East has shifted east. Therefore, the petrodollar system is just it's a front now. It no longer has any stability because our military has been hollowed out, i.e. the mandating of all military to participate in a experiment is a part of weakening our army. And then on top of that, at this current moment, for those who might be joining in, I was talking about how, this article here from Jim Rickards, give a good point as to why Russia at any minute, because they've diversified away from U.S. liabilities, i.e. treasuries, Federal Reserve notes, stuff like that. And they've been using those instruments to redeem them and acquire gold. They're in position to be able to probably implement some version of a Eastern Bretton Woods style approach towards reestablishing trust in the system, because trust will not come from the West, because all our politicians, a good majority of them, have been compromised because of the love of money and power. And so when your politicians, and that's that leads to this midterm coming up, my personal opinion is that I'm kind of sensing in my gut that we may not have a midterm. I don't know why that is, but I just sense that because of a Putin-Shock possibly could cause things to go awry. Another national emergency style event that would lead to the suspension of this midterm. Anything is possible. But my point is, between now and tomorrow, hopefully you guys are continuing to educate yourself on what's really going on outside of what we're being told. Never trust anybody that reads from a teleprompter, because the script is written by somebody who's trying to create the narrative. Never listen to a person on YouTube without doing your own investigative work as well. So we're at that point where trust is far few between. So connect with people you vibe with, support people who are trying to speak truth. And of course, everything falls back on you. You're responsible for yourself. And so make sure you're doing the best you can to prepare in any form or fashion you need to. So primarily we talk about financial matters here in the monetary system, because that's what this channel is all about. But it goes well beyond that. Making sure spiritually you're in tune and dialed into your creator. Food, water, shelter, all the things that we need to survive in a real world environment. And definitely don't fall for the trick of going into the meta. That's another cash cow that they're trying to get people to invest in, buying digital property that, do whatever you got to do with it. All right, let me see here. Witcher Work says, RTD, Mike, gold and silver cannot be used to resolve debt. So you can use it to buy stuff, but you need to Fed notes to resolve debts. Read the law. They use that against us. 100%, and I could be 100%. And so when I talk about physical possession, gold and silver, it's more so as an insurance policy that you never hope to have to use. But it's good to say you will have to use it. And not everybody who's tuned in who has physical metal, you will file a claim, in my opinion, once this Federal Reserve system is no longer. Where now it's the dollar will always be around, just like it always has been since it was created in the Coinage Act of 1792. Just because it's called a dollar don't mean it's actually a dollar in terms of the paper unit, a digital version on some commercial bank's ledger, or an actual coin or silver. So we will have an EUSD, but by that time, the world will not be dependent upon dollars as a world reserve currency. And at that point, somewhere down the line, it'll be probably to your advantage to cash in on that insurance policy as far as liquidating some of your metals to get into real world things, depending on the environment, depending on property rights and stuff like that, whether or not they still respect it or not. Because I assume at some point, the whole idea of you own nothing, be happy with it, they probably will, remove property rights in some capacity. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Mike, Tony from Oakland. How you doing, brother?
TB, I'm doing good, man. Good to hear from you. What's going on?
Oh, man, everybody's shouting me out today. I want to get shouts back.
Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
I just wondered if LVP and then we had the snowfall and the freezing gas pipes. So I need to know how much I'm gonna pay up here in California next week.
and that's if it did freeze, I didn't hear nothing. I mean, they didn't plaster the airways like they did last year, talking about pipe bursts and people freezing. So it must not have been that severe, I'd assume.
Amazing how they kept that quiet this year, huh?
Exactly.
and Steve from FEMA Region 9, like me, man, he walked right into the store, huh? He was supposed to stop and smell the roses. He missed that part.
Hey, now watch this. Even the flea markets and whatever, do they require masks? Is they still on that stuff out there or what?
They do, but there are certain counties that are starting to lift the mask mandate and the vaccination passports. Mm-hmm. So it's the small ones first, and then it'll come to the bigger ones eventually. The question is when and how long we got to stay up with this.
Yeah.
But I want to give a shout out to, and I don't do this often, man.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you've got a guy in your chat, Bywar, and I'm gonna mess it up. Bywar Ikim Stacker NZ. I just call him NZ.
Uh-huh.
He's got a beautiful channel, man.
Yeah.
He shows coins from New Zealand, Germany. Yeah. It's beautiful coins that I want.
Yeah.
But everybody should check him out on his web channel.
By Wacom Stackers NZ. Yeah. So I've seen he does I saw some coin reveals, so I did check it out. So definitely, show him.
Definitely keep him in mind and sub for his page, man. You ain't got to look at everything, but he shows some beautiful silver coins.
Yeah. Bet.
So that was my thing. Oh, and Putin and China, they aren't going to do nothing. They're going to just sit there and watch the U.S. fall on its own sword, man.
You think
so? I mean, it's a matter of time.
Yeah. Now, so the pasta. So, do you see, for example, this of course, the West is trying to force a war. They're trying to force that narrative based upon Ukraine, yada yada yada, their aggression. But do you see it to where if a shot is fired, will Putin respond by literally bringing the dollar down? Because I don't think it's going to be a shooting war rather than a financial de-dollarization, ending of our stock market type of war would be better for them as well as us. But do you think it'll get to that point or they actually pull the trigger as far as our markets and the dollar?
No, they don't. All they have to do is just sit back and watch us implode on ourselves. They don't have to fire a shot, and all they have to do is continue on with that Belt and Road, and everybody just tag along. And next thing you know, the dollar's still going to be the dollar. Mm-hmm. It may still be the world reserve currency, but nobody's going to be using it.
Right, but that's the thing. Like, so, will it be considered a reserve if nobody's using it? Like, so, that's that complete confidence, I think, will be severed at that moment, to where the world was sitting on large stacks of paper and treasuries and stuff like that. They got to do something with them things, or they're going to be the last ones holding the bag. And that's why I think, you don't want to be the last one holding the bag. of notes, in my
Well,
opinion.
when you say reserve currency, that's only that is only a two-party contract, and it's only as good as the people involved in that contract.
Right.
There's nothing back in the dollar.
Right. 100%.
So you could reserve currency. You can call it world currency, just like you can call Biden the global leader.
Yeah.
You know that ain't happening. China and Russia is leading this thing.
Yeah.
We get stuck on titles, and we need to see what they do.
Right.
You know, and I wholeheartedly think that they need to raise the interest rates. And I think that if they're going to prove their worth, it has to be a 0.5%.
0.5%, like so incremental blips in the point in incremental blips in 0.5% rather than a quarter.
Well, no, they can't.
Just 0.5% are right.
Quarter's a joke. You have to hit them hard because I think that's what the job numbers was about. If you look at, you remember that phony number that you and Mario did.
Yeah.
Those numbers are made up, but they're made up for a reason. And I think the reason is because they're going to have to prove that we're back to full employment, which you and I know good and well that they aren't, because net, we end up losing millions of jobs. If you take out the ADP, you take out the lost jobs, the people that aren't counted anymore. Net, we're in a lost position. But they've got to make it seem like we're full employment, and now's the time to pull the plug, because they have set themselves up to, over the last 2 years, that you put $9 trillion in the markets that you have to suck out.
Yeah, very true.
And 9 is not going to be an easy task. And you're talking about, we'll have it done by March.
No, it's not happening. Expect something else in this place.
You know,
we all know that. All right,
yeah,
man.
exactly. That's sit out there and do a hard hit, like, this is happening, and then you walk it back to later.
Right. But between now and then,
everybody will know that you ain't wearing no clothes after you start walking it back.
Right. And that's the thing. Between now and then, it just seems more likely than ever that there will be some type of event that will either force their hand to move back, or some type of event to move us on to something else. That's how volatile everything is right now, to where, and that's how I mentioned, like, I'll be shocked if we got to November and actually had an election as far as the midterms are concerned, because any minute now they can definitely use some type of false flag, some type of event to help them out, or they're gonna create one. So we'll see.
But the market sets the parameters. The Fed doesn't do anything, and that's why they can't do anything now. It's like the 7%. Yeah, 7%, and they ain't doing nothing. That's because you can't do nothing.
Right.
You just elbowed your way to the top. And now that it's 7%, you're like, we're gonna say, and watch it come down. You know, and in the month or two,
this week it will come down this week. I bet you this week it's gonna go down to 6.9. They're gonna say, see what's happening. All this forward guidance and forward Fed talk is helping, and this and that. And okay, yeah, it'll be temporary.
The Fed leads from behind.
Exactly. Hey, man.
All right, brother. I'm gonna let somebody else.
Yeah, be good.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, man. You know what time it is. You can't trust politicians or bankers. That's just how it is. But continue to do what you do. Stack, get your weight up, and make sure you are awake and aware, and keep your eyes open. Because any minute now, things can change. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, from New Jersey. I called you a while back, a couple months ago. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, my friend. What's going on with you?
Yes, sir. So I got an uncle that works in the banking system in New York, and pretty much what he told me, the banking system ready to go out in a couple of weeks. There's some shady stuff going on, and you know what? That's what's going to lead to the war. So you know what? It's just an excuse to continue this Ponzi scheme, pretty much.
Right.
So they doing everything in their power. I just want to call in, and you got money in the bank, get ready to take it out. Keep very little as you can in there, enough to pay your bills, because it's about to be something.
Yeah. I think we all kind of sense that now. It's just a matter of, just, I guess that's the, like, are we playing a waiting game, or are we proactively trying to take matters in our own hands? That's two different ways of looking at it. So, I appreciate you for calling and sharing that, because the information you shared is an approach that people can take in accordance to their comfort level. As to, how much are you willing to lose in this bank heist is about to take place? That's for everybody to decide. So.
Exactly, and it's scary. People don't know how close we really are. People don't know what's going on regardless, but it's scary how close we really are. What we're about to see.
Hey, man.
Anyway, all right, Mike. Take care, brother.
Be good. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah. All right, people. We're approaching that 50-minute mark, man. As always, good to connect. Hope everybody is having a great Monday. Have a great week. Definitely this week's going to be interesting, to say the least. And to end on a good note, I want to make sure I bring to your attention that as of today, there was not an immediate slam down. Silver's above 23, gold's 18.20. So once again, for those who follow the TA and the charts and stuff like that, that's always favorable for those that need a little bit of encouragement when it comes to the price, for those that care about the price. But for those that don't, where it's heading, because there'll be no stopping to the amount of liquidity provided at some point sooner than later, or game over. So it's either it's inflate to death. That's all there is. That's the only option out of this. So you don't want to be caught up in that casino of the paper game and commercial paper and all that other crap. Just, do the best you can, man. Enjoy life and stay prayed up. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. I will be back at it tomorrow, Lord willing. And I appreciate all you guys for joining. Peace. Hey there. Sorry for Visit Rethinking the Dollar throughout the day, your place for news on metals, gold, crypto, you name it. Scroll down to the bottom and you get a chance to see the daily videos, the recommended videos, and more importantly, the 5 reasons to unplug from the monetary matrix, with the first one being the awakening period. Step number 1, test your dollar IQ. 10 simple questions, average is 60%, follow up with the alternative perspective with the monetary reports. Consider becoming a supporter of the Rethinking the Dollar platform via Patreon. Get a chance to hang out off air as well as additional information that can't be discussed on YouTube. Any support is helpful. With the crackdown on alternative media, the best thing to do is to connect off air. Scroll down to the very bottom. You can find Rethinking the Dollar on Telegram, audio, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, you name it. The most important ones will be the email list where you can get notified weekly, the Discord page, and make sure you connect on Telegram. And last, don't forget to visit the RTD store where you can get merchandise as well as additional information and resources. And most importantly, scroll down to the bottom and get your weight up with all the limited edition rounds only available on the RTD store.